All right, everyone, please take your seat. We're already a little bit late, so we really have to start this session because we were told that we have to finish very sharp because there's a lecture right after this session. So if you don't mind, I will start immediately here together with our wonderful panel for our plenary session 2, which is called Aurora 2030, Achievements, Challenges, and the Road Ahead. Before I'll give a short introduction, I'm going to give the word to our Secretary General, Ramon, who will say some welcoming words. Ramon, please, the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, thank you, Alex. Thank you, panel. I don't want to eat up too much time. Maybe just a few words on the recent midterm review. Those who had been in the review, I think we all experienced it was a pretty tough review by the committee. Good. We know where we know what's at stake. But let me also say we had a week ago again a discussion with our PO, the project officer in Brussels, and she confirmed that overall we are doing very well. And I think I'd like to give that message here across. So, you know, despite many points of attention, we are doing overall very well. I think that's important. Specifically, I just mentioned what's going well and maybe some points of attention, and then we kick off with the discussion. So I think the work in the hubs specifically was mentioned, the transformation power in the hubs, the challenge-based research and education. This is really community service learning, that was really mentioned. But also student engagement, as I mentioned yesterday in the opening. These were, a couple of points. But there's also challenges. And I think where we really need your commitment, your institutional commitment, is the virtual campus, right? This is something essential if you want to achieve our joint education program. And Jan is here, and I think if you have questions about it, Jan, whereas he is centrally here, he is the mastermind of virtual campus, I should say. I think we also have to shape or prioritize our educational portfolio. You know, we really have to be doing many great things, but for the future, we really have to think what are our priorities and also match that about the Brussels priorities, etc. So that's maybe something for the discussion in a bit. And also a bit of the bigger picture, what's the sustainability of all our activities? How will that be embedded in our institutions? And this is also a question the Commission asked us. You know, what's our transformation power, basically? And then in terms of expectations, there was one remark by the PO, and she said, in the future, we will also look more into dissemination beyond an alliance program, meaning what we develop here, do we develop tools or any kinds of frameworks which may be applicable to the broader higher education sector. So that's something I think interesting we should take into account. I leave it at that. I wish you a lot of wisdom for the discussion and good luck.
Thank you very much, Ramon. Yes, give him a warm round of applause. As Ramon already said, we are already halfway in Aurora 2030. We had our midterm report. We had a written midterm review assessment that we have received from the European Commission and the external reviewers that read our report. And one sentence that summarizes all of it. It's almost impossible to summarize it, but it is written in our written assessment. While full consolidation is still underway, as expected at midterm, the Alliance is moving beyond pilot logic and is operating towards a functioning European university ecosystem, even if not yet a seamless one. So basically, we're on the road, but we're not there yet. Ramon also touched upon it, but these were the 3 main strengths and weaknesses of our midterm report that were mentioned. So strong points, depth and credibility of the challenge-based transdisciplinary education, student engagement, and I want to specifically mention also here that some alliances are actually struggling with this, so this is really a unique strong point for Aurora. And then the strong service-based learning educational approach. So also not only community service learning, but also the social entrepreneurship courses, the Louis tool that were explicitly mentioned as strong points of Aurora. Weaknesses that we have to address and have to work on is the virtual campus, of course. As Ramon said, without a joint digital infrastructure, we cannot scale up to further educational endeavors. We were a bit over-reliant on draft processed oriented deliverables, so they sensed some vagueness here and there. We need to be more factual, concrete. What has changed from the beginning, and where are we now, and where are we going in the future? Just clear timelines, clear prioritization, and clear responsibilities and commitments. So that was also mentioned, and of course then also the uneven institutional embedding and sustainability clearness. So there was a bit of an asymmetry that they read in our report. There was more progress on some domains than others, but also more institutional embeddedness in some institutions than others. That might be a risk in the future if we want to progress with Aurora, with the 9 partners and associated partners that we currently have. When it comes to education, our current educational strategy, and we have wonderful people working in the work packages on our education, basically focuses on developing flexible and stackable educational offers, BIPs, micro-credentials, the Aurorization of courses, which basically means that we adapt courses to our Aurora standards, and that should lead to joint educational offers and programs. As I said, we have a strong performance in social entrepreneurship, service learning, and the pedagogical tools that we have, the implementation of them. And our future focus for the next months and years ahead in Aurora 2030 will be expanding our joint educational offer, further capacity building in Central and Eastern Europe, and the further implementation of our tools, and of course, the consolidation of the virtual campus, very important. One last thing that I also want to mention is that the midterm reviewers also stressed that we have to differentiate between progress and impact, and we have to show impact at the end of in our final report and our final deliverables. So that's why I also would like to highlight the impact workshop that we're going to have, Task Team 10.3. I think it's tomorrow at 4, and I would like to ask our work package members to go there. Very important. What has changed as a result of our progress? So that is basically what we really need to showcase in our final reporting. Today's panel. So that was a bit the state of play. Where are we now? Today's panel, we have 5 wonderful members, a diverse group of people. We have Professor Janette Walde from University of Innsbruck, Vice Rector also. Kai Hockerts, Professor at the Copenhagen Business School, and can I call you Mr. Social Entrepreneurship, our main social entrepreneurship person. With Eliška, a student and Vice President of the Student Council from Palacký. With Silvester Draaijer, the leader of the Digital Society and Global Citizenship Hub. You're very much involved in Work Package 2. And then, of course, we welcome new members, Robin Banerjee, professor at the University of Sussex. And maybe it's a good moment to say some welcoming words from your side. And maybe very briefly introduce yourself and Sussex. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's an absolute pleasure to be here and to join you on the panel. Thank you for the very nice introduction, Alex. We're absolutely delighted to be here. My name is Robin Banerjee. I'm the Pro-Vice Chancellor for Global and Civic Engagement at the University of Sussex. And I have to say, it has been an absolute joy over the past year to work on building the relationships with wonderful partners in Aurora. I was introduced to Aurora in, I think, September or October 2024 when I was visiting Iceland, Fanney. And Jon Atley Benediktsson at the time was president of the network. And since then, the relationship has grown. I've had the opportunity to engage with partners from across the network. And it has been absolutely special to build that connection, or should I say rebuild the connection, Just as a little bit of history, Sussex is one of the so-called new universities in the UK. It was built in the 1960s when there was a wave of new higher education being expanded in the UK. And Sussex in 1961 was founded as the first of this new wave of universities. And that idea of being a new university, doing things differently, was really important to Sussex. And I have to say that the spirit of international cooperation was almost like part of the DNA of the university. And even to this day, we're one of the most internationally oriented universities in the world, we believe. We have more than 170 countries represented among our student population. And we have this strong commitment to partnership work across the globe. And it may interest you to know as well that Sussex was very much at the epicenter of the development of Erasmus in the first place. From the 1970s onwards, Sussex was very involved in the discussions around European cooperation in higher education and a youth policy. And of course, when 1987 Erasmus was first established, we actually, we say this, I mean, it might not be the very first student, but in the first cohort of Erasmus students, we had someone arriving at Sussex, Lucio Pippi, who's a professor in Rome now, right? He was the very first Erasmus student coming to Sussex. So, of course, some things have happened in the meantime, which were actually deeply distressing and upsetting for many of us. And we are absolutely delighted that the UK is reassociating with Erasmus as of next year. And we feel like we're in a very, very positive position to be connected with Aurora. I will just say, this is a little bit of a teaser for a session that you very kindly allowed us to have at 1 o'clock today. And that's a kind of a dedicated session where we'll be talking about Sussex and its connections with Aurora. So I don't want to say too much about it right now, but I do want to emphasize the point that sustainability, societal impact, and entrepreneurship are themes that are so strong in Aurora, and they resonate very, very strongly with us at the university as well. For us, what we do in the university is absolutely not intended to be just in a sort of a self-serving bubble. It's about us being in society, with society, and for our communities locally and globally. And I feel that that's very much what Aurora stands for, and it's just a delight to have this warm welcome and hospitality from all the Aurora partners here. So thank you all, and looking forward to a really fruitful collaboration.
I want to second what Robin says. We encourage you all to attend the session of University of Sussex today at 1 o'clock. But as Alexander mentioned, we have a tight time schedule now. We're supposed to leave the room at 12, so we're going to start hopefully an interactive session now, which also involves you in the audience to answer a few questions that would feed into the panel discussions. So we want to invite you to go into menti.com or just use the QR code and enter that password. You in the panel can also do it if you like, but you will have the chance to comment, of course, on the answers, at least. But you know, answer for yourself also. It would be nice. So, just to also give you some more information while you're doing this, that there will be a total of 6 questions. We will and then we will take 2 at a time to discuss in the panel. These are also questions that we hope will feed into our work later today and tomorrow. Not the least, while our presidents later today discuss the strategy for Aurora in the years ahead, and the Vice Directors of Education tomorrow will discuss the Aurora educational strategy. So, good food for thought, hopefully, that we will gain from for your input and the discussions here in the panel. So, the first question, we will now have 2 questions, and then we'll discuss shortly those. Here is, what is the greatest value of Aurora for your university? And here you can reflect on the value for staff, students, the institution as a whole. So, of course, we see some already words popping up with a lot of mentioning, collaboration, for example. So we'll give this a few seconds to run. Yeah. So we see collaboration, development, funding, of course, also coming up, interdisciplinarity, trust, networking, student engagement. So these are at the moment, those who are coming up, but lots of partnership, trusted collaboration, improving teaching, joint education, innovation, mobility, joint transformation. So these are words that we might also put like a poster even when we come home. You know, what we're all about, what is the value of this for our university. I'll leave it at here. The next question is a more personal one. It is, what is the greatest value of Aurora for you personally? Because we know that you are all very engaged, students or staff, teachers or admin staff or leaders. So what do we gain from it personally? And how does that maybe link to what we were just seeing for the value for our institution as a whole? France, we didn't see in the other one. So at least, you know, we are a community, Aurora community of Aurorans, like we often say. So networking definitely, community, funding as well for our work, inspiration, engagement, family, job. Travel. Go to Aurora conference. Knowledge, development, trust again, partners in crime. So I think this is, you know, you can keep posting here, but we would like to get just a few comments, not the whole panel because of the time, but we have also more questions. So to start with, maybe one of these mics is working, then we can pass them on. But I'm thinking, Janette and Eliška, at least, for your comments on the value.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for having me on the panel. What I really immediately saw is that there is almost the same of the university, the benefit of the university, it's cooperation, internationalization, as well as for the personal benefits, right? And what is better than being the same for the individual, for the researcher, for the lecturer, as well as for the university, because then you do not have to motivate that much and to get the engagement and cooperation of the individuals who make up a university. Right? So this was the first I saw here. And for the University of Innsbruck, of course, I can also commit to that because of the cooperation and especially the internationalization also at home is very important for us. So because not every student can really go a semester abroad, so therefore it's important to have the chance with various formats to collaborate with international guests, with experts, with courses at other universities, and therefore can also experience different cultures, different teaching formats. Today we had also already the question, what is the correct format to teach, right? To bring in line the content with the exams maybe, or also with the mission or the take-home message out of a course. And you can have the possibility here to get all these kind of knowledges. And especially what I also think is very important is that you do it with peers and you get evaluated by peers. And this is the best method to improve courses, content, teaching within a university, but also, of course, within Aurora. But that is what we benefit a lot from Aurora here in this context.
Thank you, Janette.
Thank you.
And over to Eliška.
Yeah, so I'm super excited to see so many words and so many values that it represents to all of us, and it's just wonderful to see that everyone sees something a little bit different in it, because I think that's kind of the goal, to put all the values that we have personally or institutionally and put it together and share it, because we can project our things and gain so much more from the others, and sharing the best practices and giving the best examples and then bringing it home and just building another community. And I think that's what's beautiful for me personally and also for my institution, that we can mix it up and like build something better. So that would be for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Any of you guys who want to quickly, very shortly comment before we go to the next two questions? You can, but we also, after the next two, we will give the word to Kai and Silvester specifically.
I saw the word interdisciplinarity there before, and that is really what kind of like clicked for me. And I know, Eliška, you were at the hackathon in Napoli last autumn. I was there as well. I was at the very first one. And what really motivated me was this bringing together of students from very many different disciplines. I remember at the first Aurora conference, we were hearing people, American studies student from Tarragona going to Duisburg to meet with American studies students from Duisburg. And that's nice, but I mean, these connections we already have, like our faculties already know each other. The connections that we typically do not have is across disciplines. So the experience there being with architects, being with sociologists and our business students, that is to me really the Aurora spirit, making those connections, them taking us around the town, showing us all the buildings, what could we do with them, and then the BMW, the business students saying like, oh, we're going to put a kind of like a big organic coffee food chain in there, and then the sociologists saying like, oh no, but what happens to the local area, the people who live here, you're going to have gentrification. And I was afraid our students would be like, they don't know what the business model is. And our students loved it, right? This experience of going across disciplines, which I think is the thing I enjoy a lot in Aurora.
Thanks for sharing that, Kai. I remember you talking about when you kind of your aha moment in Napoli. I think that was, something that is so nice to hear, and also for teachers and students. So the next two questions, because this is what we have now more, what we are doing when we focus on our educational offerings, our joint education. We want to ask you, what educational focus areas would you like Aurora to put more efforts in? The answers here are, of course, in some boxes, because we have 6 educational hubs, we can say. This then question is, we know we're doing something in all of them. What would you like to put more focus on? We can also mention that Peace Education Hub is a new one. We didn't write it in the proposal, but we have added in, and we wrote about it in our midterm review, and we also got good positive feedback that we are also reactive on what we would like to focus increasingly on as well. So we are putting more increased focus on that, but we are also thinking here, how do we balance it, or do we need to do it? That is also something for the panel to discuss. Should we continue with all of them even? And I know the vice directors of education are going to discuss this tomorrow also. If we are going to formalize more the Peace Education Hub. And also thinking ahead after Aurora 2030 for the extension period, is this our structure moving forward? So what we see here is the Peace Education Hub definitely also being confirmed that we would like to keep that and even do more on that. As a new hub, the sustainability and climate change, focusing on environmental sustainability, is here in the lead, and then the other hubs are also getting several votes. So I think if you in the panel can remember, this at least, what we came out of these results, and then you can reflect on that. But we want to bring another question now. Or Alex, do you wanna comment on something here? Yeah. I'll give you the lead of the discussion here. I'll pose the question here. Yeah. So you can ask them more. We'll divide that out. The second question in this round is, what pedagogical tool or method would you like Aurora to put even more efforts in? Many of us know what this is, but also I want to give some explanation for those who don't have the abbreviations all clear in your mind. So LEWIS, as we have referred to, is our competence framework. It stands for learning outcomes in universities for impact on society. And then the seismic, I'm sure Kai can talk all day about that, but that's our social entrepreneurship app, you can say. In that app, there are activities that enhance students' understanding and confidence in engaging with social entrepreneurship and business model development. And the BEVI, BEVI stands for Beliefs, Events, and Values Inventory. And it's an analytical assessment, a kind of a survey that is done to map and monitor the mindset of students and the impact of education. We have used that as also on Aurora courses or in general surveys. So it's to monitor the mindsets on that, beliefs, events, and values. And the the community service learnings explain. We often use the abbreviation CSL as well. So in our courses with good engagement with the local community, often courses that we run with that focus. So we see a CSL stands a bit out here to that we should put more efforts in that. We got that feedback also in the midterm review that we're doing good work in that, and this also relates to the challenge-based courses that we have, societal impact, sustainability also. So that's a method that we are proud of, and also the LEWIS, we got a very positive feedback on that as well as seismic in the midterm review. So we see a little bit less votes for BEVI, and we see also different, less emphasis on that is clearly. But yes, so I wanna also, we wanna run this a bit fast. So I'll give it over to you, Alexander, to lead the discussion here.
I will stand here before I fall off the stage, and it gets embarrassing. So maybe Silvester, I wanna get to you. Maybe you can give the microphone to him. If you see the answers on the hubs and the educational tools, what do you think?
Can you put up the previous slide again?
Yes, I can. These were the answers for the hubs.
All right, let's start with, this is of course very biased. It's of course very dependent on who's coming to Germany at this point, so that's one. And I will also explain my position a little bit. So I'm really reasoning from Aurora 2030 perspective. I'm the co-lead in Work Package 2, and I'm the lead of the hub Digital Society and Global Citizenship, and I'm very disappointed that I'm very low in this graph, of course. But it doesn't matter. I'm not an academic, so there's a few academics here, and they know I'm into community service learning. I'm into social entrepreneurship. So what I believe is that Aurora is very much driven by, well, say personal drivers also, from people who think, well, some of these things are very important for me as a professor or for me as a person. And I think that's a great driver for Aurora. And what this picture tells me actually, that it would be good to focus indeed as Aurora going forward on less kind of thematics, because it's now too diverse, I think. And I, for myself, I voted on the cultural diversity and identity part, because you can study and learn about sustainability in your own institution with your own peers in science. But it's very difficult to really learn about culture, diversity and identity within Europe. And I think we're a European University Alliance, so the context of pulling in Europe and diversities and cultural differences is actually what I would think would be the most important for, say, an European University Alliance. So that's why I voted for the cultural diversity and identity bit. So I'm trying to be upfront here, don't defending my own thematic here, but just trying to think about what is good for Aurora to move forward. So that's how I interpret these results at this point. Is there any one of you who'd like to comment on my comments? Yes, Janette. Oh, yeah.
Hi, Fanney, thank you. No, what I see here as a statistician is, right, they are on the same place, so 4 are almost the same. And I think it's very important that this new peace education, for example, is like the others rated here. So maybe we should think about that. And I agree totally with you that culture, diversity, and identity, this is something we can perfectly learn in an Aurora, in the European context and in an Aurora context, right? So I, of course, from my viewpoint, I would also support this. And I think sustainability and climate change is such an imminent threat that I think we cannot get rid of such a goal and of such an education in this area, and have to put our strength, in my point of view, into this field. Of course, right? It's a necessity.
Thank you very much. Maybe if I go to the next slide again, I want a brief comment from Kai, maybe, because this also reflects our Aurora competence framework. Is there anything that you would like to say about this?
It's a general comment. Of course, I feel a little bit like the European Song Contest that we had this weekend. I'm from Germany, so I'm used to low scores. That is, but taking that apart, so not really talking about seismic here, I think what I've learned from the last round of writing proposals is it doesn't really matter what we in the room think should be done, unless we have people who are doing it. And I'm not talking about the ones that are up here. I think all the hubs are doing really well. I think all these activities are doing really well. But we did have experiences with task teams. Oh, we should have a task team on X. It should be done. Who's going to lead it? Oh, we don't know yet. We're going to figure out somebody, and it gets assigned to somebody later on. And I think this is where we've had experiences in the past when the ground-up support wasn't there. You run around, you try to appoint somebody, then that person leaves, somebody else comes in. So I think it's important to have strong support in the Aurora community, people who want to work together, and that's my experience. I have lots of colleagues who are working with the Sustainability Hub. I wish I could find more colleagues for the health and well-being, and this is our roles as ICs, but that will only work if there is a strong leader who takes them up, who onboards them and brings them along. I think that should be our key learning. And I've come across some task teams where people are like, okay, I'm here because I have to do this. I was told by my president, or it was written in the proposal, we should not do this again. So there have to be people who want to push and pull these things. And if they do, I think it's wonderful what you can do in Aurora, how you get people from all kinds of universities involved.
Kai, I don't know if my mic, it still works. Let's go to the next question then. We're going to gear up a little bit and we're going to talk about challenges, because we have a few challenges, of course. What is the biggest challenge that Aurora should overcome in the near future? Very clear first answer. Is that you, Dejan?
Just a simple question. So these are the last 2 questions, and they are big. This is the first one. So we really want to crunch your brain here on this, you know.
But very important to address them, of course, and to highlight them so that we can work on them.
And we see that, you know, there's virtual campuses mentioned. We also got that feedback from the midterm review, and we are so aware of it. We know, you know, we're putting also a lot of efforts in tackling that, because hopefully it turns out it will switch from a challenge to an advantage that, you know, when we finalize the virtual campus. And the funding, we are dependent on funding, of course. And the micro-credentials, we know that, especially in the educational hubs. This is a huge topic, how we can develop joint educational programs through micro-credentials.
And apparently there's rising fascism in Aurora. That's quite problematic. So I hope we can address that. I haven't read that in the midterm review, but good to know.
It puts it into context to maybe what Ramon also mentioned here, like how we also think about our societal impact and how we communicate about how the role of our institutions in that. So it's So it's both on a small scale, how we tackle the virtual campus and how we tackle challenges in Europe and the world. So, of course, we want to also have your input here, Robin, and the last two questions. So, and how Sussex can come into this also with us. We'll give it 10 more seconds, and then it's the last question. Institutional engagement. Yeah. It's also interesting, also for our leaders to think about. How can we think about our institutional engagement and transformation through Aurora? So, last question. What is one practical step that Aurora could take in the next 2 years to strengthen education collaboration?
Actually, there's one more question after this.
Oh,
yeah.
Is there? Okay.
You'll see.
That's right. Yeah. Of course, I was like, the future. Well, there was the future question. Okay. So, being practical here, what should we do in the next 2 years? How to tackle the challenges when it comes to education collaboration? And of course, we're talking about next 2 years because it's the remaining period of our Aurora 2030 program, as we call it. So what are we gonna showcase as a joint thing when it comes to educational collaboration? But also, you know, when it comes to mobility, because we know the Commission is looking at our mobility numbers, they're looking at our courses, and how the impact for society, the societal impact for our institution, and also so we see the joint degree coming up. We know that's something that the alliances are also promising. Even we haven't promised a joint degree in this 2 years for this phase, but we are still discussing it, as we're also working on the DigiSoc as a joint degree, which is a kind of a, you can say now, a side project, or not within the Erasmus funding project. It's digital EU funding. So the funding also comes into that. If we want to look into that, use also the next 2 years, not only what we promised as an alliance with Erasmus Plus funding, but as Aurora, what we can also practically look at. So more funding, joint degree, more, micro-credentials, student engagement, more mobility, community of practice. We have the COPs, as we call it, the community of practice, the groups. We can also involve Sussex and Simon Fraser in our communities of practice. So it's practical for staff and students to join them. Yeah. Prioritize student funds, less bureaucracy. So I've just read out the biggest here. Should we go then to the final question? Yes. So 3 questions here to discuss. It's the challenges, the practical steps ahead for the next 2 years, and then the main success in 2030. What would you like to see as Aurora's main success in the year 2030? So we are talking about educational collaboration, something jointly, joint degree programs, here, words coming up. Micro-credentials as a form of joint programs. Yeah. Student representation.
People are answering staying alive also. It's very important.
Staying alive.
Otherwise there's no Aurora if we're not there.
Staying alive as Aurorans and Aurora. Yes. Virtual campus might be definitely a step towards success. Hopefully before 2030. Yeah, visibility. Global impact. Yeah. Lots of ideas and hopes for the future. That's good. And of course, very much in line with our educational offers. and our goals in that direction, and the student engagement. Yeah. Should we, at least, you know, I think you should continue adding here, because this could also be some poster at home, you know, what we dream of for the future. But Rob,
maybe Robin can say something.
Robin, do you want to start with?
Thank you very much. I agree with that. There are fantastic posters representing the kind of challenges that we've got and the opportunities as well. The thing that occurs to me looking at the last three questions is that there's a real mix here, right? About a kind of micro focus in terms of how do we get stuff done as a community of universities, like the joint degrees, the micro-credentials, the virtual campus, those kinds of provisions. There's that micro picture, but then there's also the macro picture, which is about what difference does it really make to society? And in the first of those three questions, right, one of the phrases that was there was rising fascism. There was a focus on the climate emergency and sustainability. These are really, really big issues. And it just got me thinking a little bit about really crystallizing the value of the collaborations in Aurora. So I agree, the micro stuff needs attention. We need to figure out how do we get stuff done like the joint degrees, and how do we do it in a way that minimizes the bureaucracy. I can see the challenges around that, and that work needs to happen. But I'm struck by the initial slides when we were first asking about what people felt they really valued from the experience of Aurora, and it was human connections, relationships, friends even, right? And I'm wondering here about one overarching theme, and that's community cohesion. Whether there's something very fundamental about bringing people together over major societal differences. We all know that we're facing a world which is very fragmented, fractured, a huge amount of division and polarization. And if through our communities of practice, if through our joint degrees, through our virtual campus, we can make a difference not just to ourselves as universities, but also to the wider world, and think about bringing people together. I mean, maybe that's too lofty an ambition, I don't know. But if we can do something to nudge or to influence or to be able to inform practice out there beyond the bubble, to bring a more cohesive community in the face of all of these challenges, that feels very much worthwhile goal for us. So I wonder whether through working together in the next few years through to 2030, we could have that as an ambition to really think about creating a more cohesive community.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Robin. Eliška, do you want to take over? There's a mic from Robin.
I was very much pleased to see the student engagement and student representation being in the center of the results. And I can assure you that we in the ASC are doing our best to actually deliver results. Me and our president, Simona Gibalova, and also all of the members of the Aurora Student Council are trying to let the other people and the students being heard. So we are very much grateful to have the platform where we can actually have a say in how it's going to be shaped. And also, like, hearing that being recognized in the midterm review was just so great, because we believe that it has a sense, because yesterday at the dinner we had a conversation that we are the students now, and we don't know what's gonna be in the future, but the people now creating the system for the future students were students 20 years ago, let's say, but we are the students now, we have the experience as a students, but the people building the frame, they have the experience of being a student themselves, but also knowing how the system works. So the cooperation between us and them, I think that's nothing better than that, because we can both join the forces and create something more beautiful and great for the people coming after us. So I think there's nothing better than joining the forces, and I think in general the Aurora is about joining forces interdisciplinary, culturally, in all of the areas that we can have. So I was really pleased.
Great. So it would be nice to hear from all of you for these final big questions. So,
And
but
maybe
we have like 3-4 minutes left,
And
right?
maybe also on the challenges. I would
Yeah.
very interested to hear about that.
If I may give you a compliment, Alexander, I think you sent us an email some weeks ago to the work package leads, and one of the questions was, what would the headline be, like a newspaper headline, about what your work package has achieved? And I was like, oh, in 2035. I think that's the right thinking. I don't know what the answer is, but it's the right thinking, because this is what the European Commission wants from us. So it's nice to put another task team, another deliverable, and so on, but we need to think in higher numbers. And just to show what I did, is I like, okay, I'm going to come up with a real stretch goal. 10,000 students have been working with the Seismic app. And then I looked at, like, we already have 4,000 students on there. So with 5 years, that's pretty easy. We are already there. So we cannot be on an easy path. We need to make more stretch goals. We need to have more demanding goals for what we want to do. Because otherwise, the European Commission will ask us, why should we support you if you just keep on doing what you're already doing? So we need to be ambitious. I don't know what the answer is for 2035, but it has to be a convincing one.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I also think that we have to have the great ambition, so what we are working for, what kind of knowledge and what can we do for the society, but that's already what we have for each of the university. And get a common knowledge, I think it's very important, a common strategy. However, to be sustainable, in my opinion, it's very, very important to have formats, to have courses, to have interaction in research as well as in teaching. And when I see here the need for a joint degree, I can understand it totally, because we established one very big joint degree. It was a very tough work to do. It needed a lot of commitment of administrative staff, of lecturers, of students also. So, and I'm very optimistic that this will sustain in 2030 still, right? And when I think what is sustainable, I agree with joint degrees. However, seeing what can we do in the next 2 years, I do not see it, that we can now establish a new joint degree, because this needs a lot of work, and this is also very tough to do it, because due to the national laws, so Austria was saying quite nice to do it here, but nevertheless it was tough to establish it. So for me, it would be much more realistic to do smaller formats like micro-credentials and agree in which kind of area we want to have it, to really pronounce, if you want to be a social entrepreneur and have the best education, do this micro-credential, for example. If you want, and put it as a certificate into your CV, so you can show it wherever you are going to work, you can show it, the students can do it. And we can build on research there too, right? Because it's very important that we have a connection between research and teaching. So to agree for a strategy, what are our high goals, I agree totally. But what we can do in the next 2 years, we have to be a little bit more realistic, to break it down and say, okay, let's focus on this subject and this format and where we want to establish it. And go for 2030 for a joint degree, yeah, I would be happy to. Thank you.
Good, thank you, Janette. Silvester, some final words?
Yes, dear people, I have the final word, which is great, of course. So I concur with a lot of speakers here. So we have the theory of change. So we have to have big ideas what you want to have to do in the world, to have an impact. And then we peel it down up to the bottom. So what is the thing that we were going to do today or tomorrow? What will be the next step? So it really requires a balancing act between being pragmatic, being lean and mean by taking risks. Also sometimes, just get rid of institutional rules, just try it out. I think that's very important at this point. And then take some further steps. And the intermediate, say in 2030, having like a joint degree, which you can really show this is our joint degree, and it is about focusing on maybe 1 or 2 of the aspects that were on the board. I think that would be a really great achievement. And then this balancing act between the pragmatism, getting admin rights, getting all the data in, and then really having people be enthusiastic to teach all these things with these wonderful groups of students. Because I know if they're once in your classroom, it's like a great experience, but there's a lot of things that need to be done to get there. And I think if we really try to be entrepreneurial within Aurora itself, we can get there. So I'm hopeful in this respect. That would be my final words. If everybody works together. Yes, thank you so much.
Some words of hope from Silvester. Thank you very much.
Words of hope.
That's a great ending to a wonderful lunchtime and a great afternoon. And thank you for attending. And thank you to our panel, of course.